Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Barry Erickson, and I'm Community Engagement Coordinator at Wheaton Public Library. The ACES, Aging and Caregiving Engagement and Support Series, is designed to be a centralized source of information and resources for seniors and caregivers. Tonight, we are proud to bring you this session on caregiver services. Caregiving can be overwhelming on top of life's other demands. Working together, DuPage County and Metropolitan Family Services have formed a Caregiving Resource Center. Services include ongoing case management, in-home support, assistive devices and technology, education, support groups, counseling, and referrals. Megan Butcher is a TCARE specialist from DuPage County Senior Services and a senior case manager for the Community Care Program. She will be introducing the DuPage County Caregiver Resource Center and TCARE program for caregivers in the community to help prevent burnout and keep the residents safe in their home. Kathleen Druin is a licensed clinical social worker who has provided counseling to older adults and support to family caregivers for over 15 years at Metropolitan Family Services, or MFS. Lauren Buford is also a licensed clinical social worker and has worked with clients since 2006. Lauren has been the program supervisor of the senior service programs at MFS for the past 5 years. Metropolitan Family Services is a not-for-profit agency serving clients throughout Cook County for over 160 years and serving DuPage County residents of all ages since the 1930s. MFS also provides services in the areas of early childhood education, family shelter, and mental health. So with all that said, I will turn the screen over to you, Megan, to begin. Thanks so much for being here, to each of you experts.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Megan from DuPage County Senior Services, Senior Case Manager and TCARE Specialist. I'm going to go ahead and start my little presentation. So introducing the Caregiver Resource Center, which is offered through DuPage County Senior Services. And this you can view online. I'm just going to give you a little intro of that. But the Caregiver Resource Center, you can find a list of general resources that we do provide on that website on dupagecounty.org. But the Caregiver Resource Center offers programs and resources for both the client and the caregiver to help the residents stay in home safely as long as possible. Some of the requirements for the Caregiver Resource Center are a lot of the programs that are provided and referrals that are provided there is a person 60 years or older. The caregiver must be caring for somebody that's a senior, or it could be an adult with Alzheimer's or dementia-related disorders. A lot of times we have programs and certain types of funding specified or specific to dementia-related needs. And then we also help people that are caring for people with a disability that are under 60 years old. So between the ages of 18 and 59, we do have funding opportunities for that as well. And also we have opportunities for minor children that are being raised by a caregiver who's 60 years or older. So a lot of times we see grandparents raising grandchildren. We do get grants for that type of caregiver. And this is just an overview, and I'll go into more detail about the different types of funding and service gaps funds that we have. But like we said, the different type of criteria for caregiver services is somebody caring for a senior in the community in DuPage County, adults with dementia of any age, and non-parent raising relative children. So a lot of times we see grandparents raising grandchildren, aunts and uncles raising minor niece and nephews. And most of these services and programs do require a home visit and an assessment. And right now we're doing a lot of that back in home now. But with the TCARE program, which is new to DuPage County, about a year old, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. This is for caregivers of older adults 60 and up. And we can also assist with caregivers that are caring for disabled adults that are under 60 years old. And this creates a personalized care plan and an assessment that we'll talk about in a little bit, but I don't want to talk too much about that here. But just to review some of the funding that a lot of people do call for commonly are assistance with service gaps. So that could be with assistive devices, bills, incontinence supplies, school clothes and school fees for those that are taking care of grandchildren, and home modifications. So sometimes repairs, or that could be for safety. And we see a lot of those, coming up as certain health situations decline. Respite assistance. Respite is for the caregiver to kind of give them a break. It's funding that could be used for in-home services, overnight stay, and in some cases, childcare with grandparents raising grandchildren. We also have funding for legal assistance. That could be for guardianship, will, POA, paperwork, divorce in some cases. And for general questions for this, the best place to go is our main line for senior services, and that's 630-407-6500. And that's for general referral questions. A lot of times if you are looking for that basic information, someone from Info Referral can help you pretty quickly. And we'll be sending that out later on too. I think Barry's going to be sending that out. So I want to introduce the TCARE program, which is offered through DuPage County Senior Services, like I said, as of a year ago, so it's pretty new. And that's a referral system that has an assessment attached to it, as well as a personalized care plan and ongoing case management support. So this is client informed. So this is, sometimes the client doesn't necessarily want ongoing case management. The client is the caregiver. So the caregiver of an adult that is over 60, or like we said, maybe someone with disabilities that's under 60. The personalized care plan that we put together after the assessment, we tailor it to the caregiver situation. So we go over what's stressing the caregiver out. We're doing this to overall prevent caregiver burnout and help the caregiver with some of those immediate needs. Other referrals for programs for the caregiver, we do provide during that assessment and during that care plan. And a lot of times we're trying to keep the caregiver able and help them to keep the residents safe at home for as long as possible. So a lot of times we have caregivers that come to us stressed out, asking, we're doing our assessment. We can do that either over the phone or in person, but a lot of times they're stressed out enough to not even remember their own birthday. I know I had a recent situation where the person forgot their birthday when I asked them because they're so used to answering for somebody else and worrying about the needs of the person they're taking care of or their loved one. So there are a lot of different types of relationships that we see. We see spouses taking care of spouses. We see sons and daughters taking care of their parents. We also see grandparents taking care of grandchildren, nieces and nephews taking care of uncles and aunts, friends taking care of friends, siblings caring for siblings. We do see other relatives like cousins taking care of cousins, in-laws taking care of in-laws, stepfathers, stepmothers. And then also there's parents of disabled adults or seniors. Sometimes we see two seniors in the household. One could be an older senior parent taking care of maybe a younger senior parent or a younger senior son or daughter. So there's a lot of type of informal caregiver relationships that we do try to help with. And just going back to the assessment and referral, at the end of this PowerPoint, I'm going to show you the pre-assessment link. So there's a pre-screen that we like to have our caregivers complete before we reach out. And that kind of goes over their situation, just a kind of a brief survey, get some of their information and contact. It goes over some of their demographics. That way we can see kind of the situation that they're in, how they're feeling before we call. And it kind of looks at their risk. If you know they're high stress, low stress, high risk, low risk of burnout. And so with Caregiver Relationships, TCARE does kind of a nice little cute metaphor for different kinds of caregivers. I'm not going to go over all of them with you, but just to kind of give you a taste of it, and maybe it's something you're experiencing, or if you know somebody in this type of situation, many different types of levels of caregiving we do encounter. Sometimes it's the information iris, which is a nice little metaphor for a flower or a caregiver that is just looking for maybe one piece of information. Maybe they are starting caregiving, you know, recently, not too much burnout yet, maybe just have a couple things that they're juggling at once. So usually that's a lower need of a caregiver. And then sometimes we have placement posies, which are caregivers that are looking to place in nursing facility and are really stressed out and have been doing it for a while and just need options and maybe some referrals. So those are the types of caregivers that are more on the high risk end. And then we have the juggling juniper, which is a lot of times caregivers we see with multiple roles. So sometimes they're a mom as well as a full-time employee, maybe working for the PTA at the same time and, you know, caring for their uncle. I'm going to show you a situation that is true. Names have been changed, of course, but Miss Kathy is a caregiver for her mother when she started the TCARE program, Miss Grace. And Miss Kathy is also a caregiver for her nephew, as well as her stepbrother who is disabled. So she has taken on 2 other caregiving roles, as well as her mother. And her sister has disabilities as well and cannot be of help to her nephew, her stepbrother, and her mother's situation. So she's also helping her sister with her finances and assisting in that way too. So now we have, you know, 4 different caregiving roles that she has taken on. And she's coming to us, you know, after there's not much time left for her to give. So she's coming to us, you know, after she's already taken on multiple other caregiving roles and now she needs help. And that's where we come in to kind of go over her options. We do an assessment that goes over her situation and we formulate a care plan that's customized to her needs. And we try to make it so there's concise resources instead of opening up a big list or going through sometimes databases and making a lot of different phone calls. We try to narrow it down to things that they can do pretty quickly, more short-term goals and more achievable goals. And again, client informed, so it's, you know, what they find beneficial to them and we're there to support it. The most common referrals made are legal aid. Prairie State Legal is a big legal referral that we do make for things like POA, living will, guardianship questions, sometimes Medicaid questions. Counseling with Metropolitan Family is our biggest source for counseling referrals. We've been working with them with caregiving coordination for a while, and they'll be speaking with you soon. A lot of times we do referrals for their own doctor's appointments. Sometimes we find that caregivers are so worried about caring for other people and have little time to take care of themselves. So sometimes we need them to check in and kind of deal with their health and maybe manage their stress if they're not quite ready for counseling. Sometimes it takes or the first step is going to see the doctor. Caregiver support groups, again, MFS does offer them as well, and we have a couple other places. The community care program, I'll go into a little more detail. I have a slide on it, but that's a big referral with DuPage County Senior Services that provides in-home services for the care receiver, so for the loved one or the senior. And that also provides emergency response the emergency response system, the emergency button, and adult day service. Home delivered meals is a big referral, so Meals on Wheels, and respite funding to kind of give the caregiver a break. And to go into more detail with the funds that we do use, we use GAP funding. A lot of times people need assistance with incontinence supplies, kind of to help the caregiver pay for some of those expenses. A lot of times assistive devices are a big need in the home, especially when something that needs to be installed. And sometimes it's hard for people to do the work themselves or to get some of these modifications done. So we've done things like grab bars, ramps, we've done rollators, canes, specialty items. We've done robotic dogs for dementia patients. So a lot of different things. And like we said, the school fees for grandparents raising grandchildren. And those home modifications, we do have funds to help with utility bills. We also could put in referrals for LIHEAP if needed, or different types of programs that come up throughout the year. Sometimes we do get more funding towards bills. And then for respite funds, like we said, is a really common funding that people do utilize with the TCARE program and with community care, with senior services as a whole. But a lot of times in-home help during the weekends, overnight, is something to give the caregiver a break so they can take care of themselves or go out of town. Another popular one is the respite stay, so the overnight in facility if their need is more complex. And then we also can do childcare summer camp for those that need that for their children. And like we talked about, the legal assistance for emergencies, disputes, guardianship, will, and POA. And the community care program, like we said, is one of the more popular referrals. And that's a program that helps with daily living activities that the senior is having difficulty with. This is helping the senior stay at home longer and remain safe in the home. And it provides affordable homemaker services. So with the program, it would pay for these type of in-home services as well as the button, the emergency home response button, to prevent falls, and especially with people living alone. And adult day service is another popular one. And that's a service that is provided in certain senior centers and ADS centers throughout DuPage County to kind of help with socialization and give the caregiver a break. They provide lunch and have activities, and sometimes that's a really good fit. Some of the requirements is they do have to be a Illinois resident, and for DuPage County, a DuPage County resident, at least 60 years of age, and have less than $17,500 in liquid assets, and that's for one person, 35 for two people. And they would have to have physical or mental impairment. So there would be, some level of health issues or some level of difficulty that's preventing them from, or making things more difficult for them during their daily activities. And we, like I said, the household tasks, daily activities is personal care. So bathing, that grooming, dressing, showering, transportation, of course, housekeeping, laundry, medication reminders, transferring. So a lot of those services. And then the socialization as well, with the adult day service is a big one. And then ongoing case management with the case manager. So with the community care program, they would be assigned a case manager. And this is a state program, and it is to help them maintain independence. And a lot of times it's a good help and fit for a caregiver, and to overall prevent placement in nursing facility. And the TCARE program, just to summarize, connects caregivers with assistive technologies, like we talked about, different types of safety items, home modifications to help keep their loved one at home longer, in-home support, and so like we talked about the in-home services, the community care program. Education, so there is caregiver education. A lot of times we do put that together in their care plan, or we have that available in our DuPage County Caregiver Resource Center. Adult daycare, informal support. So sometimes with the TCARE program, we are looking at what family members are available, what kind of maybe informal things like a church or community center, public places that might better help a caregiver or network with the caregiver. And then, like we talked about, a big referral we make is counseling and caregiver support groups. And this is how to make a referral. So this is where the caregiver pre-screening does exist. This website link would be where the caregiver would fill this out. It's survey style. It usually takes about 10 minutes, pretty quick. And then after we receive that pre-screening, we get in contact with the caregiver within 2 to 3 business days. And we try to set up that assessment and then develop that care plan. So yeah, and just to review, the DuPage County Caregiver Resource Center is available at our DuPage County website, dupageco.org. And then we will be sending out the pre-screen link, I think later on or after the this presentation. But yeah, I'd love to answer any questions. I'm sorry that I might have just flew through that pretty quick, but thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Megan. Just a reminder, if you have a question, you can go ahead and enter that in the Q&A, and confirmation that, yes, I have those links and the phone number. I'm sending that out in an email to everyone who's registered after the program. And again, if you're going to be watching the recording of this, you can just contact me for that. But while we're talking to you, Megan, I did have a question about those income limits. You mentioned liquid assets of 17,000 for a single person, 35 for a couple. By liquid assets, does that include like their home? Because or
yeah,
what does that
actually? Yeah, good question. It actually doesn't include their home. It would include a residence or property that they owned and weren't living in. So that would count as an asset amount. But the property they live in or the car they drive wouldn't count as a liquid asset. More looking at accounts that are accessible, life insurance policies, IRAs, things like that we see.
401ks and stuff like
401ks, right, trusts.
Right. And that that income limit applies to the community care side of it. Is that also a factor in just the caregiver supports that you offer?
No. Also, thank you for asking that question. It doesn't. The TCARE program is open to anyone in the community. It's at no asset or income limit. We're just looking to help anybody that needs resources or that can benefit from that. A lot of also the funding doesn't have asset limits on it at this time. So sometimes a lot of that funding can be utilized. Like we said, there's an assessment portion or a home visit with that, but there isn't necessarily an asset limit for respite funds or GAP funding.
Wow, that's great. So basically anybody can contact you and maybe get some respite funds so they can get a break or something like that.
Right, so you would contact the main line for questions about that, because there is that home visit and assessment process. But yeah, someone would be able to, give you that information and then also put you on a list for referrals for, that home visit and to get that funding started for you. So yeah.
That sounds great, because so many of those expenses come in and they're just can be overwhelming if all of a sudden someone needs, a ramp on their home or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. So unless there's something you think that we should have been asking, but we didn't, I can go ahead and turn things over to Metropolitan Family Services with Kathleen and Lauren.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barry. And thank you, Megan. That was a wonderful presentation. We are thrilled to be here. Thank you for having us back again and having such a valuable program for our seniors and caregivers. You did mention earlier, and I am so pleased that to talk about Metropolitan and its history. As you said, it's been around since 1857. We came out here actually in the 80s, but out in the suburbs, you're right, in the 30s. And we've been providing wonderful services to people out of our DuPage office. We have programs like adoption preservation, we have Head Start, general counseling, and as some people might know in the audience that they are from DuPage, we merged with Family Shelter Services a few years ago and are very proud of that wonderful relationship. But for tonight's purpose, we're here to talk about seniors, and Lauren and I are very privileged to be a part of the senior program. I often say to people, we're the best kept secret in DuPage. We'd like more people to get out and to get the word out and be aware. One of the saddest things to me is to meet someone that after they've been a caregiver and they could have benefited from our wonderful program. I just want to say at some point in your life, you're either going to know a caregiver or be a caregiver. So it's just a very important program tonight. And again, thank you so much. So I'll hand it over to Lauren and she'll start with the challenges.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. And Kathleen, if you'll mute, thank you. I hear myself twice. So just want to say a little bit about the challenges and why we do what we do. The challenges that caregivers face. The biggest one during COVID-19, of course, is social isolation and loneliness, especially when so many of the senior homes and facilities, nursing homes closed down and they couldn't even see family. It was a very difficult time, and now that's being relaxed a little, but seniors are our most vulnerable population, and caregivers are trying very hard to keep their care recipients safe. So they're very isolated. They can't go out and do the things that they would do if they weren't caregivers, and it's always a worry. Lack of resource knowledge is one of the things we try to improve and just make sure that they know all the resources available in DuPage County, both online and in person, to help them with their self-care, to help them with their stress, and just help them with the needs of their care recipient. Prioritizing self-care is super important because caregivers tend to put everything into worrying and trying to predict and fulfill the needs of their care recipients. Family conflict is important to address because sometimes people get very emotional. They have different ideas of what's best and who's doing what, who's not doing enough. I'm very privileged to be part of a family. We're caring for my mom who has dementia, and my sisters and I all live here in DuPage County, and we're able to help each other out. So when it gets difficult, we just call each other, we FaceTime, we share resources, and I'm sure one of my sisters is on this Zoom right now listening. So it's real helpful when you have family that can come together and they have someone to talk to, like a therapist or someone like presenting like us to just help them with whatever their needs might be. Basically, now I'm looking to see, okay, turn this back over to Kathleen, I believe. Do I? Or do I take this one? I'm sorry.
No, you take this one.
Okay, so one of our biggest services is individual counseling and support. We do it for seniors 60 and over, but for caregivers, we have that exact same service. We will work with the caregiver, provide therapy, provide resources, referrals, linkages, collaborate with other programs. So if they're caring for an adult with who is disabled, that adult might be able to get general counseling at our company. We try to collaborate with domestic violence, with all types of services that they might need, because a caregiver is so connected with the rest of their family members, and it's important to address all the needs. We also refer them back to DuPage County because that TCARE program is so important to help caregivers who might not want counseling or to be a part of support groups, but do need some help in another area and can just check in, every 3 months with the TCARE provider. We address issues that are related to caring for older adult relatives and or disabled adult children 19 and over. We also assess for challenges, communication, burnout, self-care, anything that a caregiver is experiencing. It's not too small to talk about. And if you call us, we're more than willing to help you and to connect you with our support services, which Kathleen is going to talk about. And the whole idea is to just help caregivers develop and improve their stress management and coping skills. This is our intake department phone number. I'm sure you'll get the slides after this, but you can call this number to get more information, and then they'll send you to one of us and we'll help you specifically. So Kathleen is going to share with you our support groups.
Yes, as you can see below, it listed the current groups that we're offering, now by Zoom, I'm afraid. I know it's preferable. A lot of you would like to be in person, sitting around a table, and that's the way it used to be, and I'm hopeful that we'll return to that format. But the one good thing about Zoom is people that could not come and attend the group because they were caring for a loved one are now able to come. Again, as the slide says, they share their challenges, their resources, their experiences. Some of them will talk about what they've tried, whether it's adult daycare that I know you heard mentioned in the previous presentation, depending on where you are in your caregiving journey. It may be the early stage and you may be still working and not working from home, and then you need a place for your loved one to go, and adult daycare is an option. And in the group, you may be hesitant, worried about it. This person is going to, this caregiver who's sitting at the table or on Zoom is going to be able to say, well, and I've tried it, it's really not so scary, you might want to do it. So they are the other people that they're walking in your shoes. Your friends, as much as we all, hopefully you're blessed with good friends to help you and talk about things. No one else understands it but another caregiver. Some of the challenges of if you are a sibling, and I recently at my groups had siblings at the table, or people at the table who have all decided to bring their loved one, meaning their parent, into the home, but their siblings have decided not to. And it's not to sit in judgment here. Not everybody can do that, but often that sibling doesn't realize the 24-hour caregiving role of the stress that takes place. And in a group format, another group member might say, well, yeah, I'm doing that. Have you ever thought of perhaps, asking for help? Sometimes we're just not inclined to do that. And it's so important making a recommendation. Why don't you have one of your siblings perhaps do the shopping for you, or maybe come over, give you a break if they're in the same area, or take over some of the finances. Just different things, making suggestions of what they've tried. As I said, depending on where they are in their journey. Learning how to balance your own needs against the care recipients is difficult. And again, depending on what kind of a network you have. But the one thing I know from caregiving and the world of caregiving that I've been a part of for a long time, there's so much stress that goes with caregiving. And the caregiver, a huge percentage of them struggle with depression and severe depression as a result. So often at a meeting, they will talk about, other caregivers will say, you know, I'm seeing a counselor, I'm seeing a therapist, and sort of it normalizes that and the importance of reaching out and getting help. Sometimes a good primary care physician, they're taking their loved one to the doctor, but they're not taking themselves. And a good doctor will realize that and often recommend that the caregiver get some help or may even consider an antidepressant. We don't always see that, but there are some good primary care physicians out there. But sometimes they don't even think of taking care of. They're busy taking their parent to the doctor. They're not taking care of themselves. And there is data to show that often caregivers predecease the care recipient. So that's another important piece that people learn at a caregiving support group. And I'll talk about, again, I mentioned the siblings and family dynamics. Sometimes there's not always an agreement when it's a loved one or a parent with dementia, depending on how many children in the family. You know, children are unique, and you may share the same parents, but you see your parent differently, and some are in denial. It's a defense mechanism. So other members might suggest, hey, did you ever think of maybe getting a neuropsych eval? And that's an objective tool to help the family's members see what the needs are. And often the recommendation might be bringing in more support. And so the family are no longer, they're not fighting. So this is another one of the things that's discussed at a support group. Along with coping techniques, you'll find that in a support group, there's a bond that's created. The regulars, they come back and they know one another and they want to help, and they're very welcoming to anybody new that comes to the table. It's really a unique and wonderful experience being a part of a caregiver support group. Again, they'll share what some of their stress management techniques and coping skills are. Something that I'm going to talk about in a little bit is the program that we have, an evidence-based program that does more of that. But you'll get an informal part of that in the caregiver support group. So I can't say enough about them, and highly recommend that we do that. So go ahead, Lauren, you're on the, yeah, there you go.
There we go. So one of our other areas of service is grandparents raising grandchildren. Kathleen, get a mute. Sorry, we get an echo if we don't mute. Grandparents raising their grandchildren, they meet in the same way that the caregivers do and all of our support groups. They meet, and it's kind of a peer support group where they support each other, sharing their experiences, challenges, successes, resources, and helpful tips. Lots of times could be experiences in school, experiences they've had with certain school districts, who they went to, who they got help from, legal information. Prairie Legal Services is our main go-to. We also have legal assistance services that we offer through Metropolitan, but it is more topics and webinars and also in person. We hope to go back to that, where they can do the POAs, the power of attorneys clinics, where they actually help you file them, notarize them, just get everything you need together and sit with you and show you how to complete them. So we try to share education in those groups. The actual teachers are the grandparents, because like Kathleen mentioned with the caregivers, so many people are at different stages. You have grandparents who have had their grandchildren since birth. You have grandparents who have experienced so much trauma and just don't understand how to help the children through some of the trauma and the emotion regulation because of the trauma. The kids have a lot of problems, and the grandparents want to understand how to relate to them, how to engage them, and how to move them in a positive direction, as well as they need assistance with caring for them, with housing, with paying for meals, transportation, emergencies, clothes, winter clothes, boots, all of those things. And we do get funding from many generous groups throughout the community, as well as through our funder, our main funder, which is Age Guide. We get help through IDOA and United Way. So during the holidays, we have help with meals. The grandparents raising grandchildren, they're connected with the Northern Illinois Food Bank, which provides boxes of food monthly, 2 boxes for each family that wishes to receive them. And we're currently working to see about having a mobile unit that would come and be in the parking lot, and people can just come and pick out the groceries that they want, not just have the 2 boxes. So we're always looking to partner, whether it's with COD College for some type of educational assistance and awareness, whether it's with the library, like we're doing tonight with Wheaton Library. And we're so grateful to be a part of this group, just to let the community know that we exist and that we're here, that these services are free. And grandparents raising grandchildren is one of our biggest groups, especially when it's in person. When we can come back in person, the children come with the grandparents. They all share a meal with the staff, and then they separate and go into 2 different conference rooms where the children receive therapeutic play exercises. They learn how to relax and how to breathe slowly, slow down their emotional responses, just regulate their coping skills, their emotional regulation, and just how to communicate and enjoy one another. The children love it. They drag the grandparents back even when the grandparents are tired, because they want to come and get the pizza and just have that experience with the other kids. And we really love this group. Right now, we're doing it by Zoom. We're really working more with the grandparents. The children needed some time off in the summer because they did Zoom and go to meetings with their schools. And so we didn't get much participation from the kids this summer. We hope to convene with them this fall. Currently, the groups meet every Tuesday in the afternoon from 1 to 2:30, and every 4th Monday from 6:30 to 8, every second Tuesday. And you can see those phone numbers again. I hope you'll receive the slides, and we'll have some flyers at the end of this to just show you quickly, and we can get those to you as well. And now Kathleen will talk about Stressbusters.
Yes, but I neglected to mention, back to the support groups. I'm the facilitator in those groups. The experts are the caregivers, and I talked about how wonderful they are sharing. So often in our group, we'll talk about a program that we had the good fortune to be trained in, my colleagues and myself, a few years back, and it's called Stressbusting Program for Family Caregivers. It is an evidence-based program that was created at the University of Texas, San Antonio in 2008. And there have been other programs of this nature, and I have actually been trained in them. I think this is one of the best. They've taken, I think, the best of other programs, fine-tuned it, and I've had the good fortune to teach it a few times. And the feedback I get from people that have attended is remarkable. And so I just, obviously, I believe in it very strongly. And often the people will, after they've done this, they will either return to the support group, or they continue all the way through, or they'll join one for a first time. It's not a support group. It's very structured. It has a curriculum. It's 9 consecutive weeks. The sessions are 90 minutes. The groups are usually not more than 8 maximum. We don't really have to have a minimum anymore, which is nice, but it's nice to have a group of people that after really a few weeks, they really gel and they form a group. Again, right now, this is on Zoom. We're hoping at some point in time we can resume to a classroom setting. But the advantage of it being on Zoom, people don't have to be within a certain geographical area. As I said, it addresses the well-being of the caregivers. In the 9 weeks, we cover everything from, well, the very first week we give a technique every week, or stress reliever. The first week it's breathing, and it's the 4x4 breathing, and I can tell you that's the one that everybody goes back to, and they love it because you can do it anywhere. The next week we talk about stress and the effects on the mind and the body, and often we'll use meditation as another technique, relaxation. We do with caregiver stress on the 3rd week, relaxation. 4th week, we talk about the challenges. There are 2. There's one on chronic disease and then one on dementia. So the one on dementia on the 4th week, we talk more in detail about the challenging behaviors of people with dementia and caring for them. 5th week, we talk about grief and loss, depression. Again, we go back to coping with stress on the week 6. 7th week, we work on positive thinking, and the 8th week, focusing on taking care of yourself and healthy living. Basics, again, we talked about how caregivers sometimes don't take care of their own needs, and educating them on the importance of a healthy diet, and especially if some of them are diabetics, which we know there's a lot of diabetes today, and stress contributes to the increased levels of diabetes, so we educate them in that area. And then at the 9th week, we sort of take all of those things and talk about them again. And as a result of one of these sessions a while back, the group members were so sad to be leaving. They asked if how could they continue to meet? And fortunately, we had the ability to create another caregiver support group, and that's why we have the second one in the daytime as a result of one of these Stressbuster programs. As I said, it teaches people, the effects of stress, the importance of self-care, how to develop coping strategies, as I've mentioned in the 9 weeks. Again, leads to a path of wellness, because if you're a caregiver, we know that you're committed to your loved one, you want to take care of them, but we can't emphasize enough that you have to value your own health and well-being. And this is one of the tools. After this, again, people have taken this, sometimes they'll come back, they recognize, as I said, in the support groups, often they'll talk about having counseling, and that comes up in this program as well. Normalizes the mental health aspect and the importance of it, that there's no shame, and encourages people to reach out and to get counseling. And if not from us, certainly we offer it in other arenas. So that's our Stressbuster program. At the end, the people that participate get this wonderful guide that they use after, and as a wonderful resource. So that's our Stressbuster program.
Now we come toward the end of our presentation, and we just wanted to let you know that we have other services, individual counseling and consultation for seniors and their families, in addition to their caregivers. And that is a service that is free of charge. Life Transition Support Group is a group of women who are 60 and over, coping with isolation and loneliness. And it can be any type of loss that they've experienced in life as they age. Usually it is connected to aging. It can be divorce, retirement, late life stressors, moving, downsizing your home, retirement, all types of things where you just, your life is changing and you need a little assistance to cope, and also to know other people who are perhaps experiencing some of those same things so that you can have a friend maybe to go get coffee with, or go to the movies with, or go see a play. People just want to, some lose their spouses, change where they live, their residence, and just to get to know other people. This group is kind of a social support group as well. You want to talk about the psychiatric assessments?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are fortunate to have a geriatric psychiatrist on staff, Dr. Jamal, and he's been with us for many, many years. And that is the one service I will say that we do charge for, is our psychiatric services. We bill Medicare. And he can be seen after he has seen a counselor in the senior program. So we would make the referral. We can't go directly to him. It has to go through counseling. But highly recommend, again, he's a geriatric psychiatrist, and we're very fortunate to have him.
Okay. Is there anything else that you all wanted to say about MFS? I did want to just confirm, as you said, you're the best kept secret in DuPage County. It is quite amazing, all the services that you provide. And I just wanted to confirm that there are no income limits, and there's no cost to the vast majority of those services. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, wow. Just for the senior program. And I can't speak to the other programs at the agency. There are, but in the senior program, we do not charge for our counseling services, caregiver or regular at this time, but we do charge for Dr. Jamal's services.
Of course. Right, and like I said, kind of amazing.
I wanted to share one more thing. We sometimes get funding from our funder, Age Guide, and this is one of the most popular or the most used funding that we get. And this is if everybody could mute, because I really hear an echo. I don't know if you guys hear it. But, we receive from Age Guide money. There's no financial restriction. If you're living with or caring for someone with dementia, they don't even have to be diagnosed by a doctor with dementia, just have the dementia symptoms, which are so many, but the biggest one is memory. And these are for safety reasons and also just for financial reasons. They will give us approval, like if someone needs money to help with someone coming to do the chores, housekeeping, grocery shopping, assistance with their rent or mortgage, if their utilities are behind, if they need short-term medication, they don't have money, they lost it or something, they home improvements for accessibility and safety, anything from a ramp to, better windows because it's leaking, changing, I don't know, door locks, almost anything is covered, things in the bathroom, transportation, including rides. You might need a medical van, something to help someone with a wheelchair where they can't just get in a lift or get in their car anymore. All types of things. The sky really is the limit. And this money just became available October the 1st. It's available through June the 30th. It's available to all the people living in all of these counties. So if you're interested, you can call Colette Jordan. You can also call Metropolitan, any of us, which the numbers are on the slides. And this is a fund we love helping people with. So just wanted to make sure you knew about it, because you don't have to do anything to qualify. Just be a caregiver of someone with dementia and you know that they need some assistance getting some things done around the house or paying some bills. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Great addition. And Age Guide is wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Let me just remind people that you can type your questions in the Q&A there. And something did come to mind. You were talking specifically about caregivers in DuPage County, and I'm just wondering if someone has their loved one that's maybe in an adjacent county, they're traveling a little bit to care for someone, could they still get services through you? And how might that work?
Well, I'll start with saying that while we are offering services virtually, we can take care of anyone in any county. When it is in person, then it's a little bit more case by case. And is for it to be covered under our grant, we would just have to check with Age Guide, let them know what the situation is, why they want to use our service, because maybe there's no service in whatever county they live in, or they can't make it at the time of that support group or there is no group. So we can do it, but right now it's open to everyone. So it's a really good time to get on board, and then we can just fight to keep you.
Right. One of the beauties of Zoom. Megan, I don't know if you wanted to address that as well, if maybe you've got a caregiver in one county and a senior in another, or a different situation kind of like that.
Yeah, so with DuPage County Caregiver Resource Center, it would be strictly DuPage County residents, but with the TCARE program, if the caregiver lives in DuPage County and they have a loved one that's outside of county, that we can still help them too. But as long as they're a resident, they can. But if they have questions, they could call DuPage County still, and we can give them the number for Cook or whatever other county is in the area. If they're, even staying in the county for a short period of time, sometimes temporary funds could be used too. So it doesn't have to be, the address on their ID. If it's a temporary address, like Lauren said, it's case by case.
Wow, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much for all of this wonderful information. We certainly appreciate all the time and effort that goes into putting all of this together. We are very fortunate in DuPage County to have so many wonderful services available. And as I said at the top of this program, ACES is just one of those ways that we're trying to make all that information available in one spot, kind of consolidating it so that as people are going through some of these challenges, they can find that information in one place instead of having to look around. So again, thank you to each of you for helping us out here to provide this. And again, I will be sending out those resources, some email addresses, phone numbers, websites, out later tonight. And if you're watching this recording and would like access to those, you can just email me at ce@wheatonlibrary.org. That's CE for community engagement at wheatonlibrary.org, and I would be happy to send those additional resources out to you. The recording of this program will be available in about a week. So with that, we certainly want to thank each of our presenters again for all of their work to put this together. And so we will say goodnight to our attendees. Stay healthy and safe, and we hope to see you again soon.